Welcome in everybody. My name is Mitch and thank you so much for clicking on this video. 24, 25, whatever it is, rounds deep into the season. I truly do understand the fatigue of playing fantasy, especially this late into the season when everybody has no trades. You've either got a couple or you've got none. And let me tell you a little secret. I actually joined the no trade club last week. More on that soon. As you can see, I've got the big Kurt Donahue sitting on my bench. And boy, isn't there a story to that. I'm going to try my best to make this as fantasy relevant as I possibly can, although, like I said, albeit that there is not much to talk about. I've got some ideas, and you know what? I'm just keen to just talk some absolute rubbish. As you can see, also, I am joined by no one. I am by myself. Matty T, the bloke had a bit of an accident, so he can't join me tonight, and I can't actually get a hold of Jamie. I sent him a message this afternoon saying, "Yo, what's the move for tonight? Should we try to cook something up?" And no reply. So I'm pretty sure that's because he has Jackson Ford and Ruben Garrick. Because yeah, he needs to trade those guys out. Good luck with those extra trades you had on everybody, mate. But for the round 24, I scored 1,061, which is about 30 above par. A par was about 1,030, and it just kind of depends on what kind of big dogs you had. Obviously, Scott Drinkwater isn't owned by everybody. He is owned by me, however, so I will take that. And yeah, it depends if you played a Drinkwater. You know, a lot of big scores gone around. Did you captain the right bloke? Did you captain Payne Hassel Cleary, or did you captain Terrell Dudd like me? And yeah, what it could have been, I probably would have been on about what 1,085 or something if I captained Payne Haas. So yeah, 1,061. I moved up about 400 ranks, a few little updates this morning. You know, the prince that was promised in Jermaine Hopgood getting an extra 4 points. So absolutely loved that. What an absolute hectic trade and he was. And it just brought me so much peace knowing I started the season. I started round one, which feels like it was 6 years ago with Jermaine Hopwood, and I'm going to finish the season with him. Yeah, I'm really happy with his score, to be honest. Got a little 4 point buff this morning. So I didn't realize Parramatta were going to go back to two 80-minute edges, which I think could be a bit of a problem in the few weeks, but I'll take the score. Hopefully, Kelma Tuolangi doesn't play 80 minutes because I think a lot of Hopgood's like minutes bonuses were going to come from Charlie Geimer starting on the edge, and then him just being a direct swap with Kelma Tuolangi, not really Kelma just playing the 80 and then Charlie Geimer joining the forward rotation, but I'll cop the score. And there's someone that I want to talk about. Thankfully, the last minute I put Connor Watson in a loop, but oh my God, what is that bloke doing? I listened to, all the podcast wrap-ups of the week, Talking League and the amateurs, and they're all good blokes. I really enjoy their content. And they went really easy on Connor Watson, I feel, with his 18. I wanted to put a bounty on the bloke's head, and I didn't even take his score. What is he doing? Taking him over Harry Grant a few weeks ago back in round 19 is absolutely diabolical. And I'm going to touch on that more soon. The bloke scored 18 points in like 54 minutes. One, why is he playing 54 minutes, Trent Robinson? Like, it makes it worse because they're winning games as well. Like, that's what absolutely makes it so much worse because come tomorrow afternoon at 4 o'clock, he's going to be named to start. And come 1 hour before their game on Saturday night, he's going to go back to the bench, and the young hooker is going to start over him. And it's not really the fact that he's playing bad. It's just the fact that I bought Connor Watson to be a starting hooker slash mid. You know, I started the season with him, and he was killing it at the start, and now the bloke's a dud. So I want to put a bounty on his head. I cannot stand that bloke. I'm fortunate enough that this week coming around 25, I'm just not going to play him at all. No shenanigans there. But I want to touch on what happened last week. And as you can see, around 24, I did not have Kurt Donahue. And I wanted to touch on this really soon. I used both my trades. So I'm out of trades, like I said in the intro to the video. And at the last minute, once I saw Connor Watson, I was just going to play him up front, but I thought, you know what? I will just loop him because I can play Joash if, he scores really bad. If he scores 30, I'll just take the 30 probably. So I put him in a loop slot and watching him play, and I'm just like, what is he doing? The bloke ran for 4 meters. Let me tell you guys a little secret. Connor Watson, if you're listening, you don't get any run meters for only running four. You don't get a point. So he scored 18 points because he made 24 tackles and he missed 3. So what an absolute fraud. Like he's lucky he's still playing this week because look, like I said, guys, I didn't actually shoot Herbie in the leg with the sniper a few weeks ago, but Connor Watson better watch his back, so I'm gonna leave it at that. So yeah, I was gonna just play Joash, but then I looked in the 24-hour team list update, the 24-hour cut, and Iongi was still there. And I was a bit nervous. I thought, oh, okay, is Joash going to play 5'8"? Because at that point, I thought, okay, Iongi's definitely playing. So it was either Joash plays 5'8" or left right out because he probably wasn't going to go back to the bench because, um, Challenger Silver's doing this thing with Riley Smith. So I thought, oh, do I want to play Joash at 5'8"? And I didn't really want to. Like, I think a few of the guys have made really good points this season throughout to just play your cover. And when you are in a position to, if you need to play someone, just play them because, chances are they're going to do a really good job. A really good example is Hugo Savala. I think round 12 or 13, people had the option to buy Matt Burton or just play Hugo Savala, and that worked out to be terrific. So it's a little bit different in this case, but it's, something along those lines that usually just playing your cover works. And to be honest, Joash scored 38 points, so I would have happily took that doubled and more what Connor Watson scored, the absolute fraud. Or I was like, you know what? I can just trade Fogarty and to a gun. Again, I wasn't really I was pretty nervous to take Joash at 5'8". He did have a really good game, like 30 tackles, no misses or something, which is insane for him. Like that's unheard of. Um, so I thought, you know what? No, I'm going to trade Fogarty because I'm not taking that score. I'm not taking a Connor Watson 18. That's diabolical. It's disgusting. And because by this point there was already like 3 or 4 games played over the week, there was just not a lot of options, and I only had like 15K in the bank, so I decided to bring in Kurt Donahue. It did feel a little bit gross considering he started the season at like 250K, but he's a Jet. Played big minutes. I was really hoping he played big minutes. Got a pretty lucky try assist. But to be fair, the bloke did have Payne Haas running all over him. So I think like half of his missed tackles were literally just Payne Haas. So can't be too mad at that. So I brought him in very last minute to not take Connor Watson's score. And that's it. I'm out of trades. So I'm officially out of trades. It's actually really, really calming. It puts me at ease. I didn't care about when lockout was lifted today. To be honest, I think everybody's like that now. Like I said in the intro to the video, getting to this point in the season, I've never really noticed it too much because, again, like I'm a degenerate. So as much as I say like fatigue, it's not for me. I could listen to podcasts on fantasy football all year round. I usually, even in the off season, I might go back and re-listen to a lot of them just to keep myself busy. That's how I can't believe I just said that out loud. That is super duper sad. So yeah, how did my week go? So obviously Adam Dewey was a really good bring in for a lot of people who still have trades. It was to be honest, I wasn't even watching him that much because I had the GOAT DCE, and that was the most infuriating watch ever. And a few of the boys in all the group chats just kept I was seeing DCE just absorbing all the negatives. The bloke kept missing tackles, making errors, kept giving away six agains, and then all the boys were letting me know in the chat like every time DC got a -2. So I really appreciated that. I actually had to put my phone in do not disturb and throw my phone away because I wasn't looking at that group chat again. And then obviously when Ruben Garrick went down, that was really sad for everybody who owned him. Again, I don't really prey on injuries, but I did get pretty excited because I thought DC is going to pick up the goal kicking, which he did. But it turns out that Manly are actually the worst club in the NRL, like by far and away worse than the Titans, Newcastle. Sorry to those two fan bases, but yeah, your teams are rubbish. But Manly are more rubbish, and they could only score like what, one try when Garrick went off the field, and DC got to convert one try. So it is pretty sad that I have bought him, and now he is at 554K. It is pretty devastating, but he's the goal kicker now, and guess what? He still scored 10 more points above than Isaiah Katoa. So I will honestly take that because again, like a lot of teams have Isaiah Katoa, a lot of teams copped some pretty dirty 30s, and I just copped who? Jacob Preston. Oh, not Jacob Preston. Jacob Carraz, sorry, who's the only kind of lower score that I kind of took. which again, everybody owns him. So he's someone for me that I could potentially loop this week with like a Nathan Lawson. But yeah, I'm really happy with the week. Obviously, Drinkwater, stinky, turned up. So I know Jamie was absolutely just going through it on that Sunday. Similar to what I was with Kai Pearce Paul, but to a lesser degree. Drinkwater is highly owned, but not everybody. Not everybody owns him and not everybody played him as well. So, I kind of lucked out on that one because my team's so bad. I just ended up playing him, and it kind of makes it a little bit tricky heading into this week and what I should do. So, like I said, I'm out of trades. I've said it a few times. I think most of you are as well. If not, you're down to your last one or two. I keep seeing screenshots in group chats where people have like, "Oh, should I use this trade?" And they got like four or five of them left. Like, what are we doing, guys? Just send them. Just use all your trades. All right. It really puts me at ease knowing that I have zero left. And yeah, there's not much really for me to tinker around this week. It kind of depends on who I want to play. Connor Watson is absolutely dead to me, like I've said a couple of times. So I will not be playing Connor Watson, even if he's honestly only if he's named to start. Like come the 1 hour before team list, it looks like I'm going to have to make the decision. Looping aside, I think I'll be able to mess around with Nathan Lawson. They play the first game of the week, which is, yeah, look at that. Thursday night blockbuster, everybody. South Sydney versus the George Dragons. That's going to be a ripper of a game. Cannot wait for the fantasy implications on that one. But I think I'll be able to put him into my starting center side and do some pretty, looping in that regard. But Connor Watson, I'm not playing him. And then it's just Siwa Wong, who comes back from the HIA. He was my magnificent bring in a few weeks ago. Yeah, mate, you're not a front rower, by the way, so let's not be taking any player one carries off the kickoff. But I've got a sneaking suspicion. I don't know what it is. I have a feeling he's going to come off the bench. I don't know why, and that sounds really silly and dumb to say once I say it out loud. But just with the Roosters winning last week and Victor Radley playing really well in the edge, Trent Robinson loves that guy. So I've got a feeling Wong's going to come off the bench, which I don't love. Hopefully I'm wrong. I'm praying that I'm wrong. But even then, I'm not too sure if I even play him. I think just for the irony and the vibes of the situation, I'm going to play DCE because I've played him every week, and now he's got the goal kicking, and he plays the Dolphins this week, so he might genuinely ton up. So maybe I might even start him and vice captain him or something. The last time I said that about someone was Adam Dewey, and he scored 80. So I'm going to play Angus, Kurt Donahue. I'm going to play, and then it comes down to Hopgood. It's probably Hopgood or Wong. Hopgood is a little bit of a worry now that, like I said earlier, Parramatta are playing two 80-minute edges. I really don't like that because, again, that kind of, and if I knew that heading into the week, I might not have bought Hopgood. But, Kelma Tuolangi seems to be Jason Ryall's guy until he gets suspended. So, yeah, I'll make the decision on those. And then that's kind of it for my team, right? I thought, you know what, like there's nothing much more to it. I don't have to, I've only got 15K in the bank, but guess what? It's kind of irrelevant now when I'm going to end the season with these guys, which, kind of leads me to my next point, which it kind of allows me to kind of start pushing on my season review over the next, few weeks, which I've kind of sorted, like I spoke about it last week's video, that I started to kind of put in the picture of how I want to review everything, and I've kind of done a lot more of that now, especially now that I'm out of trades. So there's not really ultimately a lot more to do in my NRL fantasy season, for this year. Besides get in front of the camera, turn on my new fancy mic, turn on the camera, and just see how scruffy I'm looking. Jesus Christ, I look bad. I need to shave my face or something. Jesus. But there's not much else for me to do in regards to my season. So I'm going to really go through the weeks and really analyze every single thing. I've got all my notes from the preseason. I've got all my, I didn't really give people projections or anything, but I've got all my notes from in the season to the start of the season to the end of the season. I'm going to review every single last word of it. It's going to be, yeah, it's going to take me a long time. It's going to take me hours and hours and hours. But when you finish 1600, oh, well, I haven't finished 1600 yet. Like, there's a good chance I finish probably 2K or under. I think the dream of finishing in the top 1,000 is not likely, especially now that I'm down to zero. But I'm going to review how I got into this position, what I did right, what I did wrong, and mainly compare it to last year as well, because last year I finished in 21st. My goodness, take me back. Yeah, this time last year I was sitting in 37th, and I had one trade left heading into this round. But I don't know if you guys can remember. Obviously, like I said, I'm a degenerate for football and fantasy, so I Yeah, I do it too much. I obsess over it. But this was the round. Well, obviously, last round this time last year was the round where Nathan Cleary played Melbourne. We all had him captained, and he hurt his shoulder. And he was obviously a trade. So this time last year, around 25, I used my final trade on Nathan Cleary and I went to Pat Carrigan because Pat Carrigan he's like a 60 guy-ish, give or take, when Payne Haas isn't there. And Payne Haas didn't play in the back end last year. So I had about 200K in the bank this time last year and I had zero trades left as well. So honestly, it's not all doom and gloom. I know a lot of guys, like I said earlier, have a few. I know Jamie has three, but, and this is probably another interesting point, is he did have three, but he also had Jackson Ford, who was silly, and yeah, he's suspended for the rest of the year. He did a Britain Nickera, and then he had Ruben Garrick, who also, not also, but he hurt a crack in his shoulder. So yeah, I don't assume he's going to be playing this week against the Dolphins. So it's looking like that's also his season. So, and that's kind of the risk that I ran with bringing in and trading out Jamal Fogarty to Kurt Donahue. Now, one of the options for me wasn't Cam McInnes. I wasn't really thinking about Cam McInnes, but he was in the price range that I could afford. And that's a really good example as if what if I did go from Jamal Fogarty to Cam McInnes and, Cam, again, pretty much died in that game, did his ACL, poor bloke, that sucks. He's one of my favorite players to watch and to own in fantasy. And yeah, now if that was what would have happened, then I would have used my last trade from Fogarty to avoid Connor Watson's score. I would have done Fogarty to Cam McInnes. I would have got 10 points, which is eight less than Connor Watson, and I would have wasted my last trade and had a permanent red dot down there with Nathan Lawson. So I was a little bit worried for that. That's the unlucky side of fantasy. Luckily that didn't happen to me, but Jamie brought in Jackson Ford a few weeks ago, who copped a 21 and then like a 60, which great score, but now he's ultimately a trade. And then Ruben Garrick is also probably a trade for his team, just because he maybe can go up and down. Um, I suggest for a lot of teams, Ruben Garrick, if they have one trade left, probably won't. Or, there's a good chance, let me reword that he is going to be their final trade out Ruben Garrick to someone you can afford if you've got some money in the bank. But if you don't have any money in the bank, Ruben Garrick is all the way down at like 420K now, which is just absolutely insane, super unlucky. Not really bad principled or bad, analysis on the guy himself. He averages like 49 at center, which is why I started with him. He came in at 43, 44 average. When he plays in the centers, he averages nearly 50. So it's not really a bad process. It's just really unfortunate. And yeah, so he's going to be a trade out. But if you only have the one trade and you don't have any cash in the bank remaining, let's say you've got like me, 15K in the bank, and you can only go to someone who's like, 440, the options aren't great. And that's just because, you don't suggest he loses 60K because he does his shoulder. He was on 17 points in 22 minutes. If he plays the whole game, there's a good chance he goes 60 plus and gets some attacking stats, although Manly are pretty bad, so maybe that's a bad projection. But you get the point, right? He was in for a really good game. Had a really trashed offload in the first second of the game. Like, when are we going to nerf those plus fours? They are so infuriating when you don't own the person. But when you do own them, it's great. I wish Hopgood started throwing them again. But yeah, so I suggest if you only have like, 10, 15, 20K in the bank, there's not a lot of options you can actually go to. If you can afford Tyrone Wishart, I think that's a great option. I think Jamie would probably be doing something along those lines. But if you can't, I suggest, there's also a chance you just leave him, let him be let him rot in your 21, have a wing fullback and center loop, depending on how much depth your squad has. If you've got more than two, then obviously you can trade him out. It's always food for thought. I am trying to incorporate just a little bit of fantasy into the video because, yeah, there's not a whole lot to talk about. Before I started doing the video, I just thought, what am I going to do? I'm starving. I would love to order some pizza, but I've got to do this video. What am I even going to talk about in this video? So that's probably where I'll leave it there in regards to Ruben Garrick and trade wise and everything like that. I've seen a few people, like I said, a couple of times saying, should I use my last couple? And their teams are pretty stacked, man. Like they don't really need to trade. If you've got three or four left, just remember Melbourne are going to rest. I think the Raiders core guys will rest. I was talking about this with a few guys this morning. I think Jamal Fogarty will rest last round. I think there's a good chance rests. Some of those other older heads in the Raiders side, like your Papali'us, who's not fantasy relevant. But if the Bulldogs can't finish any worse than third, if they can only go third, then that's it. There's a good chance that a few of those guys rest. So keep that in mind that just because this week, we've got 3 rounds to go, and if you don't need to trade this week, then these marginal upgrades, like if you've got 3 or 4 trades and you can go Connor Watson to whoever you want, then okay, I'd probably pull the trigger. But as you can see, I'm a bit of a gunslinger and I pulled the trigger. I've pulled many a trigger because I don't have any more triggers to pull. I have no trades. So, yeah, there will be rests, there will be carnage. A lot of teams, Melbourne may do it in round 26. Obviously, we've got the Cowboys in around 27, so you drink water. So if you've got a Lawson or something, I know there's a lot of pretty stacked squads out there, a lot more stacked than mine in regards to team value. Even though team value is a bit of a myth, it's a bit it's a bit irrelevant now because you're just trying to survive with what you have. But I mean, even Osto, I saw from the Fantasy Amateurs boys, his team is so sacked. Like he doesn't even have any cheapie. Like his team is just straight depth. His worst player is like Sean Blaw. So why does the bloke have Sean Blaw, by the way? No, I saw the vision. I was laughing with him about it. I get why he did it. I see the vision. But yeah, so in regards to that, like, these guys, if you're picking between like Drinkwater, Bo Fermor, like if these guys are like your 17th man, like you're doing fine. So I probably wouldn't force the trade. Um, this week, heading into round 25, I think I'm going to captain Payne Haas. Last week I was pretty firm on just leaving it on May all year, but that was a mistake and it kind of hurt a little bit because, like I said, scoring 1,061, I had a really good week. I made about 40, 50, 400 ranks or so. And I lost so many. In that Broncos game, I had Payne Haas, Paddy Carrigan, and Kurt Donahue and I still lost like 800 ranks. And midweek ranks are like a myth. It doesn't really mean anything. But the week that I would have had if I went Haas, yeah, an extra like 30 points or whatever the number is pretty crazy. It's the difference between having if you had like Connor Watson and you captained Payne Haas against me in regards to just comparing it to my team, it kind of just like nullifies the Watson score because it just adds those extra points from the captain. Let's say, if you want to think about it like that, it's a pretty funny way to think about it. And that's probably where I'll leave it for that, right? Like I said, there is not much more else to talk about. The next couple of videos are going to be pretty fun. I'm going to need, maybe Jamie's help to just see what direction can I go with it. Because, there was an idea, one of the boys, Callum, in the group chat said, why don't you just get a bunch of our teams and just say how, I don't want to swear, but how rubbish they are and just make fun of all of our teams. And I thought that was a really pretty funny idea considering, these videos will probably get a lot lesser views. So the people who are watching it probably are watching it for the laughs and the banter. So that was a really good option. And maybe next week I'll get on and maybe crucify my own team. And then a few of the other boys and just say how absolute rubbish their teams are because we're all in the same boat. And probably the last thing that I wanted to touch on as well, which one thing that I'm really going to look pretty deep into in regards to my review of my season and how I want to play and just learning because we're always learning, right? Like I said, I've had 3 or 4 really, really gun years at fantasy. And this year's been pretty challenging. We see guys like Nigel who are always at the top. Jay-Z from the Echo Chamber Boys, he's a great guy. He's a great dude. I've had good conversations with him. And it's sitting in like, let's just see, he's sitting in like, where is he ranked? I don't even know. He's in ninth. So he's again finished like second or third last year, back into ninth. Like that's insane. That's so good. And we're all learning, right? These guys are all learning. And it's good to I've become friends with a lot of these guys, some more than others, other creators and other people in the space. And yeah, so I'm always learning, and that's the thing that I want to continue to do. And the one thing that I wanted to touch on is the restings and relying on restings and kind of incorporating the thought of guys getting rested to comparing that to other guys who won't get rested. And the big one that I wanted to talk about was Connor Watson, and it's all in hindsight, right? Because I bought and like a lot of people bought in round 19, and heading into round 19 it was pretty clear that the Rooster guys wouldn't get a rest. Connor Watson, we started with him for a reason. We know what he is. Yeah, and he was Origin, so we couldn't look at any of these guys. But now he's a really clear buy. He played 3 games at hooker. He was doing really well. It was like a low to mid 50s average. That's what we bought him for. Happy days. And now it's the benchings. Him playing 55 to 59 minutes bench hooker, and it's not great. And you can kind of compare that to Harry Grant, who I can't remember what the actual exact analysis is, but I know I'm quietly confident that he has something like a really high average in the back end of the season. And he is notoriously he does really, really well on the back end, and we've seen that he's absolutely killed it. He has obviously had that big try in the Golden Point game, but that was going to be another 50-point score. Obviously, the week before that, he had a few turnovers, things like that, but he's getting the really, really good scores, and the data in itself is saying, yes, like Harry Grant is statistically a great guy in the last 7 or 8 rounds. And I didn't jump on him because of the fact that I was quietly confident, and I still am. I can nearly guarantee it that these guys will get a rest in 26 or 27. And I compared that to Connor Watson, and obviously Connor Watson wasn't going to get a rest, whatever, whatever, whatever. But another caveat to that is Cameron Munster a few weeks ago, and a lot of people spooked him, and rightfully so. I think last week you can kind of take that with a grain of salt. He played fullback. Yeah, Bellamy. The bloke's not a fullback, so I don't know what we're doing there. So kind of take that for a grain of salt. I kind of removed that. But the last two games before that, he went 60 plus, and without Jerome Hughes, again, notorious, he does a lot more, similar to what Jerome Hughes is without Cameron Munster. And the reason I didn't jump on those guys in the moment was one, I probably did have the trades for them. Obviously, round 19 with Harry Grant, I definitely did. Back when I had like 1,000 of them, I've really spammed those the last few weeks. But with Cameron Munster as well, like I was worried about them having a rest and getting a rest. Similar with Penrith guys a few years ago when we were like, we can't have four of them because they're all going to rest. And that's really come back to bite me, especially with Grant, because I even if he does rest, this his total points and like total average in the back end for when you picked him up versus picking Connor Watson up is going to be so much higher. Like he's going to have outscored Connor Watson, and it's not even close. And it kind of just the rest is irrelevant. And I don't really know what the data would suggest. That's more for me talking out loud. I hope that makes a lot of sense, but it's something I'm going to go back and review and maybe look at last year as well. I know the year that my Broncos made the grand final. That last round was just chaos. I think I fielded like 13 or 14 players. Yeah, Paddy Carrigan, Payne Haas, all those guys got rested. And we all still jumped on them and we still own them because they were killing it throughout, the season. So just little examples like that. And that's kind of one that I really want to look back on, the Harry Grant versus Connor Watson. And obviously it is absolutely in hindsight. We could not have suggested the bloke played 3 games starting hooker. If that continued, it's probably a different conversation. But because it didn't, and because this happened, could I look at that and go, okay, Connor Watson versus Harry Grant? Harry Grant, captain of the club, will play every game, probably gets a rest. They need him on the field, has been playing 80 minutes. Connor Watson, more of a utility. If there's a backline injury, he goes to center, blah, 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 blah. Could this have all been avoided? I think hindsight's crazy, and I'm more just saying it out loud so I can go, it's good for discussion, and good discussion always can entail a learning curve, whether or not it's more so for me more so for you, the viewer. But again, I thought I would just put it out there because it makes a lot of sense to me. And these are the things that I'm going to be going through in my season review when I write it all down, when I go into very minute detail. Probably won't be for the camera more so. I'm not too sure how I'm going to be doing it. I'm not even too sure if Jamie Brown's alive. The bloke hasn't contacted me in hours because I think he's still upset about Jackson Ford. So that's his own fault. Why would you buy Jackson Ford? So that's a joke. That's a joke. But I think that's where we'll end it. I think this video is good length. I'm not too sure. If you're still watching to the very end here, that's crazy. Why would you do that to yourself? Literally click off and go do anything else. It will be more productive. But in all seriousness, I do appreciate everybody watching. And, I understand the views and all that sort of stuff probably get a little lower in the end of the season. It's not as exciting as releasing or, showing your round one team compared to your round 25 team when you are empty on trades. So I appreciate everybody still watching and listening. And if you've got any fun ideas on what I can do for the next couple of weeks in regards to the video scheduling and what you guys want to see, if there is anything at all, then I'll be more than happy to do it. Maybe I'll just get on in front of a camera and start laughing because I just laugh how rubbish everything is because there's not much else there to do. I feel bad for all the guys and content creators who have to still make content because there's not a lot. But I've had so much fun doing it, and I'll continue to have fun till the very end. And hopefully I can retain the gig for next year. Eh? Maybe I might take over JBFA Jamie. Maybe it's JBFA Mitch. Just maybe I won't put the JBFA title in front of my name because, as you can see, why did Ben Hunt drop the ball? That's all time. That's my good luck charm. So I'll leave it there. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll see you next week. Thank you.